All right, y'all. This is my official top 10. Now, obviously, this has been an extremely long draft process for this class. I think we've all had enough time to fall in love with the prospect and then fall back out of love, given the amount of time we've had to look at all these guys. I want to be clear, this is not a mock draft. This is my big board of how I value the top 10 as far as risk, reward, and value. It's a balancing act, and everybody values different things. Is it the ceiling? Is it the floor? Is it the fit? There's all these different things. And so this is my top 10. I want you to be sure to leave your top 10 in the comments after you get through this. And if you haven't already subscribed, please, man, hit the bell. I'm at 50K. I need more. I really do this. I hoop. So without further ado, my official top 10. Number 1, James Wiseman. It's the ceiling. Look, obviously he is far from a safe bet, but I think having the highest ceiling to go along with what I think is a relatively high floor, it's worth taking a swing. At worst, he's a rim-running big in the mold of a JaVale McGee, and at best, he could be a perennial all-star. Hell, if I was Minnesota, I'd take him first and tell Cat, figure it out, bro. Now, his comp physically, I think we've got to go a ways back to the Admiral, David Robinson. Speed, strength, and agility in a 7-foot-plus frame. Skill-wise, I think he's going to be more in the mold of a Miles Turner. Certainly, he's not the shooter Miles is yet. I think he's headed toward that skill set. A decent face-up game, a rim protector, and maybe someone you would like to play a little more physical than they do. Number 2, Deni Avdija. Now, this is very arbitrary. I understand that. But there is a fire in his eyes. There is something about the way this kid carries himself, a true confidence and an edge. But all that wouldn't really mean anything if you didn't have any skill, and Deni has plenty. Look, he doesn't have a standout trait, but he does everything good to average at 19 and 6'9". I think given the path that he has taken to the NBA, he's ready to contribute now. Physically, I see a Gordon Hayward type athlete, pre-injury. He's a straight line guy, but with that frame and size, that should work out for him. Now, he also was a lead guard, a point guard for most of his junior and youth leagues. And so I see shades of, dare I say, Lamar Odom. He's not the athlete Lamar was, right? He's not nearly as long, but he has that playmaking creativity off the bounce as a big forward, and I'm intrigued. Number 3, Onyeka Okongwu. People are sleeping on the Big O. Right? That's an ambitious nickname, but I think people just don't want to try to pronounce that last name, right? Or his first name. And I understand he's not the sexy pick. His measurements are nothing to write home about, and he rebounds and defends. But you know what also translates best to the league? Rebounding and defending. I understand his projected ceiling is not as high as, say, 5 or 6 of these guys, but I don't think it's so low that you can ignore what he's already shown at just 19, and that's consistency, self-awareness, and an NBA-ready body. Now, we've all heard the Bam out of Bayou comps, and I think you can see that obviously physically. They measure out very similarly. But I think he may play a little more like Serge Ibaka, where he doesn't want the ball in his hands as much, right? You're not going to run any type of offense through him, but he's going to rebound, he's going to be a versatile defender, and he's going to protect the rim. Number 4, LaMelo Ball. A lot of people claim Melo is the biggest talent in this draft, and he's the one that really has a chance to be special. You already heard from me. I don't think his ceiling is as high as Wiseman's, but I'll buy that he's the second best talent on the board. But I also think that comes with the risk that he completely busts. I worry that his path has been too controlled. How does he deal with adversity? How does he deal with fighting for minutes? So if your team lands him, be excited. There's no doubt I would be, but I'd also be very nervous to see, I think it's the biggest boom or bust pick amongst this lottery, to be honest with you. Physically, I think he's comparable to Michael Carter-Williams. We're talking size and athleticism here. Not a lot of pop, but enough considering his frame. As far as stylistically, I see some white chocolate, some Jason Williams. That's why his ceiling is so high, because that creativity and that swagger, it can't be taught. And when it's right, it can elevate a crowd and a team. Number 5, Anthony Edwards. He's my biggest slider. At one point, he was the number 1 guy on my board. I'm not going to lie to you. And I know a lot of people took that pro day with a grain of salt. I didn't. Why was he so out of shape? Why is his footwork so inconsistent in an empty gym? Why does he lean off the free throw line? Look, there's no doubt he's a freak, but at this point, I think he's kind of a man-child. And to be honest, it doesn't look like he's been getting trained properly. Now, you could look at that as a positive and say, man, his potential hasn't even really been tapped into. Or you could start to get cold feet like me and say, why hasn't this kid progressed when all he's had to do is get ready for the draft? Physically, y'all remember Isaiah Ryder? Straight out of the town, the East Bay Funk Dunk. Edwards is probably a little bit bigger, but I also think Edwards could stand to trim down a little bit. But they have that same nuclear pop with all that muscle on their frame. Now, how he actually plays stylistically, he reminds me of Ben Gordon. He prefers the pull-up, right? He takes some difficult shots because he likes to pull up. That's his natural instincts. And when he gets going, look out. So I think by the nature of his shot selection, he's probably always going to run hot and cold, just like Ben Gordon did. Number 6, Tyrese Haliburton. This is the safest guard in the draft. He isn't going to be an all-star. He's not going to get you hyped to go run and turn on 2K21. But he is going to help whatever team he goes to right away because of his versatility and IQ. It's no secret he's limited physically, but he seems to have an it factor and a charisma that I think helps make up for that. Physically, I think the Livingston comparisons are pretty good. He's not going to get off the floor as quickly as Sean did, right? But he plays to his length and he understands where his strengths lie and weaknesses. As far as impact goes, I think he can be a Derek Fisher type player, a third guard who can kind of fill in the blanks, defend multiple positions, and have an impact all while not really having the ball in his hands too much. That's the appeal. Number 7, Obi Toppin. Now, Obi will have you reaching for the 2K, right? A big who runs and finishes like that. You add a little New York swagger, and he's going to be a fun player. At 22 years old, he's ready now, at least offensively. I think you have to pair him with a bigger rim protector. As far as playing the 4, I think he wakes up scoring double digits in the league. I know everyone likes the Amari Stoudemire comp, but I'm going to go with Stromile Swift, who had the same verticality and bounce, but wasn't as strong or as fluid as Stat. And that's kind of how I see Obi. He's not as strong, not as fluid, but he still has that crazy bounce in a straight line, right? He's very effective above the rim. As far as impact goes, think Blake Griffin, but Detroit Blake Griffin, right? Where he's a very versatile offensive weapon, but usually gives it back on the other end. Number 8, Devin Vassell. His buzz is cooled, but I think he remains a trade back target for a lot of the teams that are looking to do so. There are concerns about his body holding up, much like Tyrese Haliburton, but he makes up for it differently. He does it with effort. His motor and his want to defend is what sticks out to me. And then you throw in the fact that he can shoot the 3 with a high release and that length. Sign me up, man. But again, it's at value. Where are you getting him? I think what you would ultimately be getting, though, is a Danny Green, Trevor Ariza type wing that you could plug into any system or any roster. Number 9, Tyrese Maxey. Now, his pro day helped him. And look, if he can shoot the 3, if he can become a good, consistent shooter, he should probably be the 3rd guard off the board. I mean, he just has the juice. When I was scouting both Edwards and Okoro, after watching them play Kentucky, I left both those games thinking, dang, Maxey was probably the best player on the floor. But again, it's a big caveat if he becomes a good shooter, because he has everything else you're looking for. The body, the competitiveness. He appears to be a gym rat. Physically, he reminds me of another Kentucky Wildcat, Brandon Knight. He's fast and strong. And then as far as his game goes, I see a lot of Marcus Smart minus the mean streak. He just has a certain want for the big moment and his effort and his physicality. So I think Maxey, again, if you believe in him as a shooter, I have no problem with you really taking him outside of the top 5, to be honest with you. Number 10, Saddiq Bey. I know this is very high for him, but in hindsight, it won't be. What he lacks in athleticism, he's going to make up for it in size, skill, and toughness. And it's also his positional value, I think, that helps him crack my top 10. I mean, everybody wants a stretch 4, and that's what I view him as. If a team tries to play him as a 3, I think he's going to have trouble athletically being out on the perimeter with those guys. But again, as a 4 and a small ball 5, I think he can use his strength, his toughness, and I see him much like the Morris twins as far as his physical tools and skill set. And then I dash in a little bit of Evan Turner. He, like Deni, played some point guard and has some good playmaking skills. And I see some Evan Turner in his passing and the way he can kind of probe with the ball and use his size. All right, there you have it, y'all. That's my top 10. Go ahead, poo-poo on it. That's what YouTube is for. Just drop it in the comments with a like or a thumbs down. It's all gravy, baby. I'm out, y'all.